Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to the Three Gun Show, episode 83. I'm your host, Dave Hartman. My guest this week is Starlight 3-Gun match director, Chuck Anderson. This episode is brought to you by MGM Targets. Have you ever been in a match and thought, wow, I really need to practice on those skinny knockdowns, or long-range practice sure would be easier if I had a couple steel targets with hit indicators? Well, you can get the same quality steel targets that you see in major matches at MGM Targets. My favorite target lately has been the standard shape auto poppers. Those little things are challenging for pistol, shotgun, or rifle, and because they automatically reset, you can run more drills and drills with positional work without bothering to break for reset. Step up your practice or outfit your range and use the code DHMGM10 to save 10% on your purchase. MGM Targets has been putting up some great prizes to give away to you. July's giveaway is for an MGM switch view lever. For more details and to enter, go to 3gunshow.com/MGM. In this episode, Chuck is on the show to teach us how to prepare for and shoot a night match. Now we have a little audio issue in this episode. It sounds like Chuck's microphone was rubbing on his shirt, so there's a little crackle. Please bear with it, because the things you're going to learn are definitely worth putting up with it. Links to everything that we discuss, including registration for the Starlight 3-Gun, can be found at 3gunshow.com/episode 83, or you can just tap the album art on your smartphone and it will take you right there. Now, please join me in welcoming the show, Chuck Anderson. Chuck, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Well, I'm excited to have you, Chuck. We've chatted a couple times briefly over the Facebooks, and I think we have a great topic for the audience here. We're going to be talking night matches, which I've never shot a night match, so I'm interested to hear all the ins and outs. But first, want to introduce you to the audience. So why don't you give us an idea of who you are off the range? Who's Chuck Anderson when he's not shooting?
When I'm not shooting, I've got a 8-year-old daughter and my wife here at home, and I occasionally get to see them in between shooting competitions. I also work for a sheriff's office here, Washington County, which is just west of Portland, Oregon. And I've been in our child abuse investigations unit for just coming up on 9 years now. Started that job about 2 weeks after my daughter was born, so that's been an interesting experience. I'm a firearms instructor for the agency, done a bunch of different stuff like that. A little bit of shooting. Was on our hostage negotiations team for a little while. Apparently they didn't think that was a good fit when, you just tell people, well, if you really want to shoot yourself.
Yeah, I think that might be counter to what the stated goal of that agency is, or that position.
Yeah, you're supposed to not tell them that. Well, apparently when I said that we needed to create the guide to, well, never mind. I'm not going to say that one because I already mentioned my agency name and I'll get in trouble.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
So, Chuck, it sounds like you've got a lot of firearms experience in the professional area. When did you start shooting competitions, and how did that come about?
So my first match was back in 1996, and I was working as a reserve officer down in Seaside at the time, and they had a match in Oregon, the Almar Memorial Law Enforcement match, and it was a 3-gun match with all duty gear, duty shotgun, supposed to be your duty rifle and pistol, all that stuff. And I thought it looked like fun, came up, shot the match, did terrible, but I had a great time. And that kind of set the hook. Shot that match for, I think they stopped shooting it after about 3 years. So I got 3 years of that in. Started shooting USPSA a couple of years after that, IDPA, GSSF. Shot the SOF match back when that was still a thing. Shot Bianchi a couple of years, just starting to shoot precision rifle series now, which I'm also really, really bad at. But it's a lot of fun.
Well, it's kind of good. It reminds of the old days when you still had that learning curve,
Well, and that was kind of the great thing about when you first start out is you start bad, but there are great leaps and bounds you make really quick. And then you kind of plateau for a little while, and then you figure something out, you bump up to the next level, and then you plateau for a little bit, and you bump up to the next level. And I'm hoping that's where I'm at PRS right now, is just waiting on that next bump. And I think I've got it down. I'm just waiting for my next match in about 2 weeks to see if I figured it out, but we'll have to see.
The great leaps and bounds and then the plateaus, I find that with like a lot of things in life, like weightlifting would be one of them. And, when you're talking about, making progress as like a beginner, it seems like catching like the basics of the sport and then putting those into action are kind of simple. And then, from there, it's like refining all the fine movement and getting everything dialed in and getting your head right basically for the next bunch of years that you're in the sport.
Well, and a lot of it, I got really lucky. I got lumped in with some really good shooters locally, and they kind of took me under the wing and explained to me the finer points of USPSA and why I really shouldn't do what I was doing, and got me sorted out pretty quick. And that helped. And then I took some professional training fairly early on. And some of it was law enforcement related. But once I started shooting USPSA, I kind of transitioned more over to like competition training. So I took classes from guys like Travis Tomasi and Dave Savigny and Frank Garcia, Eric Raffel. And pretty much after each one of them, I saw pretty significant jumps, and they stuck. So I credit a lot of what I learned from these guys.
Now, when you went to those classes, was it the classroom portion of the instruction, or was it just like how it changed your game, and then you had to go back through like and practice and implement it yourself, or where was the big leap that you saw?
Well, I'm terrible at practice. I almost never practice. I mean, I actually getting on the range and focusing on something to learn other than just going out and sighting in guns before a big match. Probably the last time was before the last world shoot for IPSC. I burned about 3,000 rounds practicing for that. And then, of course, I got tendonitis in my elbow, and that taught me not to do that again. But no, I mean, a lot of it was just there were some things that clicked. Like with Travis Tomasi, I have a really fast split speed. I can get down 11 splits, and I thought that was a good thing. And Travis kind of explained to me that no, I mean you're much better off getting the gun from that target to the next target. Maybe slowing down that split time a little bit, but speeding up your transition between targets. And, once I figured that out, times dramatically reduced then. You still keep a fairly fast split, but instead of, going ba-bam, ba-bam, it was more of a continuous stream going down range.
Right. And so
it was just little things.
Getting like a consistent cadence then, I guess, in your shooting?
Yeah, you're not wasting the time, locking the gun in so you can get that the fastest possible split you can, but leaving it a little bit loose. And then as soon as that second shot goes off, you're already looking at the next target. You're moving on to the next target. Trigger's prepped, and as soon as it's there, the shot's going off. And like with Eric, he explained to me just how bad C's and D's are. Because I was a fairly sloppy shooter. I'd been shooting limited for a lot of years. I took a class from him not long after I switched to production. And yeah, he has a thing in his class where every D you shoot, he takes a magazine from you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which unfortunately when I got to Florida, I forgot to set my alarm clock, or thought I set it, and woke up a little late for class. So when I rolled in about 20 minutes late, I had missed that portion. So after the first drill of the day, when he came over and took 6 magazines from me, and I was just staring at him confused, going, why is this French guy stealing all my magazines? I figured it out fairly quick after that.
Yeah, so when you're in production, you need all those magazines too.
Yeah. Well, and it's, essentially every point down is time. And it hadn't clicked to me on that. I just thought, well, there's 2 hits on there. It's good enough. And for 3-gun, that works. For shooting USPSA, not so much. Especially
yeah, for sure.
IPSC.
For sure. Yeah, it's a transition that I had to make because I started shooting 3-gun first. So when I would go shoot a local USPSA match, I'm just I've got like Delta Delta, Charlie Delta, and I'm like, yeah. And all these guys are like shaking their heads.
Well, I'm trying to remember back when I started shooting 3-gun, they didn't really have Time Plus yet. I mean, I think it was just starting out at like Superstition. They were starting to play around with it, but we were using, I want to say it was like Paladin scoring or something like that, where you had to come up with a certain number of points on the target in order to consider it neutralized. So there was still an accuracy element to it, and you shot a lot more. A's back then. But yeah, then with Time Plus just being straight, 2 hits anywhere on the target, you tend to get a little sloppy on the paper.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's nice to hit one of those, USPSA matches every now and then to remind you to look for those A zones instead of just spraying on the brown target.
Yeah, when you're like, yeah, I got 2 Delta. That's not a good thing, buddy.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I quickly figured that out. Or maybe not quickly enough. It was after the first day, though. Someone definitely pulled me aside and was like, you should try to hit that little box in the middle. Okay.
Well, that's one of the nice things about shooting GSSF is I try getting USPSA shooters to go out to it. And, of course, it really is 3 pretty boring courses of fire. But, man, it really hammers home accuracy.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you'll get a USPSA shooter out there, and it's like, all right, so the speed that you want to shoot this course, cut it in half. I mean, just double the amount of time you're going to take. Just slow down by 50%. And, of course, that usually translates to them slowing down by about 0.5%. And they shoot the first stage, and they'll pick up, 25 seconds in penalties on a 15-second stage. It's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't shoot that fast. You're going for that little 8-inch circle always, every time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I did the same thing.
And then they shoot the next one and the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I did the same thing at my first GSSF match, and it wasn't until like the ride home when we were doing like our, breakdown where we were like, wait a minute. I think if we would have shot that a little bit slower, we could have done a little better.
Well, I took my 2 neighbors to the last GSSF match we had here locally about a month ago, and it was their first competition, and I each had them shoot 2 different divisions, and the first time they shot, and the second time it's like, okay, now slow way down.
Yeah,
just hit every plate instead of burning 11 rounds and knocking 1 plate over, and your score will go up dramatically. And it did each time. And they had a blast. I mean, they're already looking to go to the next 2 GSSF matches, and one of them's already on board with buying 2 new guns, and it's a great way to get people hooked.
Yeah, and it's a GSSF is a lot of fun, and it's completely different, and it's a like you said, a good way to get people hooked because it's like low impact, right? It's not intimidating. There's not a ton of movement. There's no movement. You're just standing and delivering on targets, and that's a good thing for newbie shooters.
There's not a lot of equipment. It's really apparent, what you have to do. I mean, there's no hit factor to try and figure out. It's just, if you shoot the center of the target each time, you're going to do really well. I don't care how fast you shoot it. You take all the time you think you need, but as long as you hit the center, you're going to do really well. And, it's simple to explain. The courses aren't particularly difficult. I ran a couple of GSSF matches up here for a while before my schedule got too hectic and I pawned it off on some other poor guy. But it's, everybody's super friendly. It's a great sport to get started in.
Yeah, it is. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got, three gun, which is super gear intensive. There's a lot of stage breakdown. There's a lot of, unknowns, and you have to be competent in three different guns. And so those are like probably the two big ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah. I mean, I used to think three gun was kind of the pinnacle of gear expensive stuff until I started shooting PRS. And PRS really showed me what expensive gear is.
Oh, yeah.
When guys are running around with $3,000 scopes and that's more than your three gun setup, it's like, okay. And that's not the expensive stuff there.
Oh, man. Yeah,
I honestly don't know how you can spend $5,000-$6,000 on a rifle, but whatever.
Apparently you can,
Makes you happy. Yeah.
So, Chuck, you have been running a couple unique matches for the last couple years, and it's three gun, so it's rifle, pistol, shotgun, but you think like, oh, that's not hard enough. We need to do this in the dark. So you've been running night matches, and I believe you said that started with the Crimson Trace night match. Is that right?
Yeah. So back, probably 2011 or so, Ian Harrison was working for Crimson Trace from Top Shot. Now he's the editor of Recoil magazine. Really, really great guy. If you ever talk to him, try to get him to actually speak English instead of whatever that mumble stuff he speaks is. He keeps saying he's actually speaking English, but I doubt it. Nobody can understand him.
Heavy accent. Heavy accent.
Oh, yeah. I'd talk to him on the phone. It's like, what are you saying? Speak English, will you?
Speak American.
Which would
How about
usually
that?
result in some... there was some profanity that would occasionally come out of his mouth. I was shocked. I've never heard such language. But back in 2011, they did a shoot house at the Northwest Multi-Gun, and they went down, they built the structure. Ian had a construction background, so he, went down, built all the walls, covered it up in black plastic, and they ran basically a shoot house stage with IR lasers and night vision goggles in the day. And it was a pretty cool stage. I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of work for them because they had to, do all the work to build the structure and make sure there wasn't enough light in there to mess with the night vision goggles. But it was fun. It was fun to shoot, and I think it really showed off, Crimson Trace, and then Pete Lesbo, the guy from I Squared Night Vision, was the one who provided the night vision goggles. Really showed off kind of what you could do clearing a house with a laser. So fast forward about 6 months after that, and through the sheriff's office, I had called up Crimson Trace and asked for a donation for a auction we were doing for the office, and went down to pick it up from Ian, and he comes out in the lobby and hands me this box of Crimson Trace lasers, and he's like, hey, so, we've got this idea. We want to run a night match, just crazy awesome fun up in Bend, and do this, do that. It's going to be really cool, but we need a match director. I'm like, oh, that sounds great. You want to hand me that box there? It's like, yeah, do you know anybody that could work as a match director? No, not really. Don't know anybody at all. Why don't you hand me that box of stuff you got there, and I'll be on my way. And it took a little while to get through my thick skull, but I think he was hinting around for me to offer up to be the match director, which I eventually ended up doing, despite next to no experience being a match director. We made some agreements. There were certain things that I was willing to do and certain things I wasn't willing to do. He was going to work out the deal with the range and work out the deal with, he was going to do all the sport sponsor contacts and all that, because I just, I'd done it before for previous Area 1 USPSA matches. I knew how much work I put into it, and I knew I didn't have the time to do it before this match that he wanted to do. And then I thought, well, you want to do it in Bend. He had already kind of talked to the guys behind the Northwest Multigun, and they made an agreement we were going to do the match kind of in conjunction with it. So it was going to be the Northwest Multigun on Wednesday, Thursday for their staff match, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the main match, and then Saturday afternoon we were going to tear everything down from the Northwest Multigun, rebuild the Crimson Trace match, and then shoot it that night for the staff match. And then the main match competition would be over the next 2 nights.
Jeez.
Well,
sounds ambitious.
Well, I worked with Scott and Scott Hawkins and Doug Hartley, the guys behind the Northwest Multigun, and we had it set up where we were going to use very similar stages, like all the fault lines, all the ropes, all the walls would stay in place from the Northwest Multigun. We just mainly pull out some targets or set up a couple additional targets for the Crimson Trace match. So it wasn't a whole lot of reset that we were going to have to do. And I had this all planned out, I thought very wisely and correctly. And then we found out the Northwest Multigun steel sponsor didn't want his steel being used when we had MGM doing our steel for the Crimson Trace match. So that created a little bit more work than planned. We had to completely tear down the Northwest Multigun and then build the Crimson Trace match in an afternoon.
Oh, wow.
And set up all the lighting equipment, which I didn't really realize how much went into that. And we got kind of a late start that night. We didn't finish the staff match that night. Not even close. I think we got maybe 5 out of 8 stages in. By the time I left the match the next day, the sun was coming up. So it was kind of a long night that first night. And then we shot the next 2 nights, got all the ROs through the match. But man, that first year it was a marathon, and I felt just super bad for the Northwest Multigun ROs that volunteered to work both, because we had some of those guys that had been there for like a week and a half solid working, and it was really hot in Bend during the summer that year. They're out there from 7 to 7. Running shooters for basically 5 days straight, and then okay, now let's tear this match down, we'll build another one, and then we're going to shoot it till 5 a.m. I thought several were going to kill me. I'm actually surprised most of them came back and worked for me the next year.
Yeah, man,
the next year.
That sounds rough. Like, RO's got it. They have it hard because they're shooting their match and then having to do all the physical labor of setting up, tearing down, running back and forth during the regular match, and then you went and piled on with making them stay up late, sleep deprivation, all that good stuff.
Yep. It was something that at that point I said, I'm never doing this again. I am never running another one of these matches in conjunction with another match again. If Crimson Trace is crazy enough to let me do this again next year, we're going to do this as a complete standalone match. And that was kind of what they ended up letting us do the next year. But it was an interesting the first year, because I drove up with Ian Harrison and Scott Hawkins and Doug, and we kind of walked around the range, and Ian gave me his vision of what the match was going to be. And at that point, it was kind of like, yeah, we're not going to do that. You're insane, and you should be committed, because there's no way I'm letting people run around with guns and do that at night. You're nuts.
What was his concept that you didn't like?
Oh, one of them was going to be a team stage. So you gathered up 4 guys off your squad, and together, as a team, you would board a Blackhawk and take off and circle the range. And he actually had a National Guard unit that they're like, yeah, we got training fuel we got to burn, so we can come down there and do it. And we'll use it as training hours. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way they're going to let civilians do this. This is just stupid.
Dude, that sounds amazing.
So he's like, so we'll fly around, and then we'll have them touch down, and 3 guys will jump off, and they'll go engage this big wide field of, like 100 targets. And then the helicopter will pop back up again to about, 50, 100 yards up off the deck. And the 4th guy, he'll be in Overwatch on the helicopter, and he'll take out all the long-range targets from the hill.
That sounds awesome.
Oh, yeah, it sounds awesome. Sure. And then I'm like, wait, you want to do this with a bunch of guys who've never been on a helicopter? At night. Have you seen 3-gun shooters? I don't want to be anywhere around the range when this goes down. So, I mean, there was a little bit of having to dial him back just a touch. He called me up and he's like, hey, I think I got a line on a GAU 19. And of course, I'm like, what is a GAU 19? So I had to look it up on the internet. It's a 3-barreled 50 BMG Gatling gun.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, well, that'll be cool. Hold on a second. So I had to call up Travis Gibson. I'm like, hey, you think you can make any a target for a 50 caliber Gatling gun? And he waited. He paused about, 2-3 seconds. He's like, yeah, sure, we can do that.
Nice.
So we didn't end up with a 50 cal ever at the match, but we had some pretty cool stage guns over the years. I kind of used that match as my way of getting to play with toys that I couldn't play with otherwise, and I thought it was cool. I think a lot of the shooters thought it was cool. But FN was a really big supporter for us over the years, so we had full auto FN scars. We had Mark 46 machine guns every year. It's basically just the SOCOM version of the SAW. And then Mark 13 grenade launchers, so 40 millimeter grenade launchers with chalk rounds. Primary weapon systems hooked us up a couple years with machine guns for the night vision stage. We'd do a shoot house clearing with full auto 223s, and then the last year we did it with full auto suppressed 300 blackout. So you never shot a machine gun in your life before. We strap a helmet with a pair of dual mount PVS 14s and hand you a machine gun with an IR laser and tell you to go have fun.
Sounds pretty awesome.
It was a blast. FLIR was a big sponsor, so a couple of years they loaned us an $80,000 thermal weapon sight that we used on different guns. It was some really fun guns we got to play with. In fact, I think the last year we used the Mark 46. There's a company here in McMinnville that they take like Can-Am ATVs, off-road rigs, and militarize them. So heavy duty suspensions and, spray paint them tan or black and throw a machine gun mount on them. So, if I got an ATV with a machine gun mount, I got a machine gun, let's go drive around and shoot some stuff. So that was one of the stages we had last year, was the RO driving you around where you shot at targets with the Mark 46 off the side.
Oh man, that sounds amazing. How come I haven't heard about this?
I don't know. We tried to get the message out.
Goodness. So how do you actually run like a night match with, you've got people on a squad, you've got ROs and everything, and you're managing a shooter and, maintaining safety when you can't see, what's going on, can't see in your bag and stuff like that. How do you mentioned lighting. What kind of lighting do you have? Is there target lighting? Are you shooting everything with flashlights? Is it all lasers?
Yeah, so originally when I had planned this, I thought we were just going to have like whatever lighting the competitor brought with them. The light on your rifle, on a handheld flashlight, headlamps, whatever. I thought that was going to be all the light. And then kind of Crimson Trace, well, they surprised me a little bit at the last minute, and they're like, yeah, we have this, we're going to bring in lighting. I'm like, well, what do you mean? We have, this event planning company that's going to come in and they'll set up lights wherever you need them. Okay. So there are these big theatrical theater lights, and they'll light up, portions of the stage, and we could highlight certain target arrays, leave other target arrays in the dark. For some of the long range targets, like we set lights out. I think the last year we had a 200-yard target, so we had it illuminated. So even if your flashlight didn't reach 200 yards, you could still see it easily and still engage it. We didn't want to make it, super gear intensive, so people had to buy like the $6,000 Hellfighter from Surefire or whatever that.
Yeah, no kidding.
The idea was you should be able to shoot the match with, like a 65 lumen 6P from Surefire. Something relatively tame, normal flashlight. But we found out pretty quick the lights that they brought out there weren't cheap. They had rented them, but some idiot in an ATV was coming out of a stage and got the cord wrapped around the axle and managed to pull down, I think, 2 of the lights and kind of yank the cable out of a third. And we found out the lights are $10,000 a piece.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so once we got the cord unwrapped from my ATV's axle, they told me not to drive there again. Okay.
Some idiot, huh?
Yeah, that's what insurance is for.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, they're really good lights, and it became kind of a signature for the match that we had these. You could actually see it really well as a spectator. And initially, when I thought of the match, I thought it was just going to be some dude running around in the dark that you couldn't see. But what it turned into was this really visually stunning match where purple and red and green lights were all highlighting the different targets. Over the years we got kind of good at figuring out lighting combinations that worked really well. Figured out the blue LEDs work really, really well with fluorescent orange targets. So the last year we actually put up some flying clays, and you shine the blue LED on a flying orange clay, and it shows up better than daylight. I mean, it is amazingly bright when it pops out of that toaster. And we use that on the long range targets as well. When you spray paint them orange, throw a blue light on them, they glow.
Huh.
So
That's pretty cool. So your long range targets are illuminated like near the target then. And so what does that look like through your optic?
It's pretty black around, and then you got a bright orange square or circle or whatever that there it is.
So is it difficult to find or anything? And do you have to? No, it's okay.
No.
And do you have to shut off the light that's on your rifle to be able to hit the long range targets?
You can leave it on.
It doesn't wash it out? Huh, interesting.
No. I mean, it's bright. The lights that we're using are significantly brighter than anything you're going to strap to a rifle. I mean, the light units, they're about twice the size of a coffee can or so.
Okay.
So I mean, they're big, multi-thousand lumen lights, and I mean, you're not going to wash them out with your own flashlight. Now, there is some stuff that when you get up close, you can wash it out, but the long range targets, no, they showed up really well. And even in the first years, we came up with ideas where we would be able to shoot them even if your light wouldn't get out there. So we used like MGM flash targets, and we put light sticks on the front legs of them so that they were in line with the target plate.
Okay.
So all you had to do is, even if you couldn't see the target itself, you just had to find the 2 sticks, put your reticle, just kind of bracket the 2 sticks in between your reticle, pull the trigger, and you'd get a hit. So I mean, really, really easy to do.
Yeah, that's pretty clever. Makes it good. Now, how do you convince the range to let you run a match like that at night?
There aren't a lot of ranges that are willing to do it. Bend was willing to, but they're essentially 30 minutes from anything you would call a populated area. In fact, we were setting up the first year, and there was a sheriff's deputy pulling off the range, and I stopped and was like, hey, if we get too loud or if you get complaints, can you let the guys know to call me and we'll see what we can do to quiet down? Which was essentially going to be me shining him on and saying, oh yeah, we'll quiet down by the day after tomorrow. I mean, not going to really make shooters quieter. But I just figured it would give me a little bit of warning before the cops showed up and tried to shut us down. And he just kind of looked at me like, hey, if they're dumb enough to move next to a shooting range, they deserve what they get. Oh, okay. Well, we are in rural Oregon.
Yeah, no kidding. I love that. I love that attitude. It drives me nuts when people complain about ranges that they move next to.
Yeah, well, the range has only been here since 1920. So how long have you lived here again? 6 months? Yeah, okay, we'll take that into consideration. Bye.
Yeah. My favorite. When people start asking about ranges around Colorado, my favorite is to say there's Golden Gun Club that. Can you guess what city it's in? And most people go Golden. Like, no, it's in Aurora. They got run out of Golden.
No fun.
No.
We got Peacemaker to agree to let us do it. Southern Utah Practical Shooters, Brian and Ken Nelson's range. They agreed to let us do it. We can probably do it down in Florida, and then Copperhead Creek, where we're doing Starlight again this year. They've agreed to let us shoot there, and it's interesting. Bend is on BLM land, so they had certain restrictions that they were really, really tight about. Like, we could not do anything with fire or flame. In fact, usually by August, when we did the matches, they were on such a high fire alert. We had to threaten to DQ people if they were smoking outside of their vehicle. And it was serious. I mean, it was going to be like, no, you're gone. In fact, you're trespassed from the range. Go away. Just because if any of the range club members showed up and saw it, they were going to shut us down. They flat out told us. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to mess around with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody smoking, you're gone. And the second year, we actually had a deal worked out. One of the companies Crimson Trace works with makes law training rockets.
Oh, sweet.
And Crimson Trace makes a laser for that rocket launcher. And they had agreed to bring in and let us shoot rockets instead of the 40 millimeter grenades that year. And of course, I'm like, well, nobody's ever going to get to do that again, because those things are $800 a shot.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, we're like, yeah, we need 250 of them. Like, okay.
That's great.
And I about had the BLM bought off on it. In fact, the guy called me up and he's like, yeah, I just need to get final approval, but I don't see any reason, it's going to be a problem. You've got all the appropriate safety precautions there. The range will be fine. Shouldn't be an issue. And then 2 days later, there was a big, big wildfire, and a couple wildland firefighters lost their lives fighting that. And yeah, he called back about 3 days after that, and he's like, yeah, it's a no.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it's really hard to argue with that logic. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to put people's lives at risk just for fun.
Yeah, for sure.
But on the other hand, Copperhead Creek, I can use pyro.
Nice. So Starlight is coming up this year. It's November, is that right?
Yeah, so November 8th and 9th is a staff match and a VIP match. And then the 10th, 11th, and 12th is the main match.
Okay.
So we run it Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. And just, we'll get done Saturday night. We'll have the shoot off. We'll give out awards. We'll give out prizes. Then people have Sunday to travel home. If we ran it through till Sunday night, then, basically they're stuck there and, they're flying home on Monday. So, seems to work out well that way.
So what do you have in store for the 2016 Starlight match then?
Well, one of the things we did with Starlight is we moved away from a lot of the stage guns. Jim wanted to make it more of a spectator sport. And I thought, it's a little hard to convince somebody they should come do the sport when we're shooting belt-fed machine guns and grenade launchers.
Right.
You know, that's not really approachable and accessible to people. So I took the stage guns out. We may have a couple this year. We're probably going to have some side matches as well where people can shoot some different stuff, but it won't be specifically part of the match. I've got all the stages done. I think they're cool. It's really
way
hard
to sell
with
it,
night
Chuck.
matches. Well, it's the one thing I figured out with night matches is when you design the stages, if you design like a normal looking 3-gun stage on paper, it is horrible at night. I mean, you can't do it that way. The difficulty factor just goes up so much that, you know, the stages that we do during the night, if you look at them during the day, it's kind of like, really? This is kind of lame. I mean, that's it, you know. It's just like part of a stage. Is there like another stage half around here? But man, the lights go out, or it gets dark, and the colored lights come on, and yeah, they're a little tougher than they look during the daylight.
Huh.
So, but it's always hard to tell until you put them on the ground. I've had a couple of guys look at them, and they say they're solid. So I'm going to go with that. I think they're going to be fun. We've managed to figure out a way to include some of the cool features down at Copperhead Creek into it. I've got a couple of target presentations that I think are just going to be like really awesome. But I won't know until I get them on the ground.
Right. Well, and then you got to get them on the ground and then wait like 10 hours for it to be dark to see how it looks, right?
Usually once I get it laid out, I've got a pretty good idea.
Oh, okay.
We've had to do a few tweaks, but for the most part, the stuff that I've come up with is usually what we put on the ground, and it seems to work well. So it's funny, a couple of years we did Crimson Trace, the last two, we put out like Survey Monkey surveys to shooters, and it's like, okay, you know, what did you like about the match? What didn't you like about the match? You know, were there not enough long-range targets, too many long-range targets? How were the stage guns? You know, all these questions, and I kind of like to please people. So I would get these surveys back, and there'd be like these responses that, you know, no, the stages sucked, you need to do this more. And I'd be like, okay, I got to do that. But it would be like 2 people, and then there'd be like 120 people that'd say, no, they were awesome, don't change anything. And it was hard because I really wanted to please those 2 people, but you gotta kind of look at majority rule on that. And it was hard to not try to tweak stuff.
Yeah.
For a couple of people.
And so that's that's like human nature, and it's something I deal with a 3-gun show as well. You know, I'll get one person that'll have, you know, a negative comment, and then 34 people that have positive comments about an episode, and the negative one always sticks in your head, Chuck. That's just like that's how we are.
How do I make him like me?
Yeah, exactly. Come back.
So, and I've managed to piss a couple of people off over the years, 1 or 3, or well, there might be more than that. But you know, do your best, figure it out. So for this year, though, last year's Starlight, I wasn't thrilled with it. I mean, I'll tell that to anybody. I mean, it was a mess, and it was kind of like the first year we did Crimson Trace. It was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I hope shooters didn't get impacted by too terribly much. But I mean, from my perspective, I didn't like either the first year of Crimson Trace or the first year of Starlight. For Starlight, we ended up running it in conjunction with the NRA World Shooting Championship.
Oh, yeah.
So you remember back when that first year of Crimson Trace, when I said I'm never going to do another match in conjunction with another match
I do remember that.
Yeah, this was already signed up before I got involved with Starlight, and it's kind of, well, you take what you get, and that was what I got. And there were a lot of difficulties we ran into because of that. But we won't have those issues this year at Copperhead Creek.
Cool.
Last year it was a 2-day match. Staff weren't able to shoot. We didn't have the time to set up run a full on staff match ahead of time, just because of the way the schedule was with the range. This year we'll have that full 2-day staff match. We'll be able to make sure everything is dialed in 100%. Competitors will get there Thursday, and they're going to have a awesome experience. One of the things we did with Crimson Trace was, dinner every night. We would sit down. Crimson Trace, they told me, yeah, we're going to do food. I'm like, oh, okay. What, like hot dogs? Fried chicken, something? No, we're thinking like prime rib.
Jeez.
No, seriously?
It's not range food.
Yeah, so like the first 2 years, we had prime rib at Crimson Trace for dinner one night. It's like, yeah, this is not match food. You're confusing me. I don't know what I'm supposed to be eating here. Starlight, we're not quite doing prime rib, but it's really, really good food. And a lot of it, and it's free. So always a good thing. Got live music every night. Jim hasn't told me the musical acts he's going to sign yet, but some of the ones that he's hinted around there's some musical acts people would pay money to go see.
Oh.
Like, actually, hey, I'm going to go see this person in concert, and we're going to get to see him at the range. So I think that's going to be a real cool experience. Copperhead Creek, they're going to run a Jeep rally or something there that weekend. And apparently it usually brings in close to 1,000 people that should be on the range and available to come over and eat our free food and listen to our awesome music and watch a bunch of 3-gun shooters run around in the dark and light up stuff.
Well, and that's perfect because you were saying that that the night format is conducive to spectators, so that works out kind of well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you see, you'd think, why would they be able to see better stuff at night than they can in the day? But it's a lot more visually appealing. I mean, it's not just a dude running around in the dirt and kicking up dust storm here and there and shooting a bunch of targets here. I mean, you get the muzzle flash. You have lights and lasers going everywhere. There's enough lighting that you can see the shooter and you can see exactly what they're doing. And we do that for the safety of the ROs and the safety of the shooters as well. But I mean, you can tell what they're doing when you're watching them, and it's different. I mean, we hadn't planned Crimson Trace as a spectator sport, and I think the second year we started getting people from Bend and other industry people just showing up at the match. And it got to the point the second year that come the third year, they wanted to hire security, and we had wristbands and everything for people to get in. And, they were freaked out because they're like, we had like a bunch of people just wandering around watching our shooters. Is that okay? I'm like, yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, no
I
kidding.
think it's great.
Good for the sport to see people that ordinarily wouldn't be exposed to that type of thing come out and check it out, and maybe they'd want to come shoot the next year.
Well, that's kind of Jim's idea behind this. And I mean, with Crimson Trace, it was really oriented towards being, first and foremost, a shooter-friendly match and a media-friendly match. Crimson Trace invested a lot in getting the media to come out to that event. And with Jim, I mean, he's moving it away a little bit from the media focus, although we do have some pretty heavy media stuff coming this year. But, bringing it more towards spectators. So I mean, he's got the live music, the food. He brings out actual like trailer with real bathrooms in it. And I've spent so much time on ranges, porta potties is second home to me. But, apparently some people like to actually flush. Seems weird to me, but
I'm kind of partial to it myself.
Well, I heard people talking about it last year. They're like, that's great. I've never seen a match with bathrooms like this before. And I'm kind of like, yeah, okay. But the upside is apparently the ladies are a little more comfortable going in a real bathroom than they are in a porta potty.
Yep.
And, one of the things, if we can bring the ladies to the match, even as spectators, they bring husbands, they bring kids. If it's just husband, a lot of times it's just him. So, if we can get families coming out, that's great. Jim Shepard, who's the main honcho behind Starlight 3-Gun. I don't know if you know his background at all, but he was fairly early on with CNN and started the Golf Channel off. I'm assuming with another guy or two, but I don't know. And then was big into getting professional, like, fishing tournaments, spectator status.
Huh.
And I mean, every time I talk to Jim about it, he's like, if I get 16,000 people to come watch somebody weigh a fish, I think I can get them to come watch this stuff.
God, are you serious? 16,000 people live to watch a fish weigh in?
I have no idea why anybody would want to watch a fish get weighed or care about golf, but it's kind of hard to argue with the guy's success.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, okay, I mean, so I let him handle that part of it. My job is just to put a good match on the ground that the shooters are going to like and that people are going to like to watch.
Well, it sounds like a sweet match, and I'm sure people are interested in that type of format. But what do you do if you just have like a normal 3-gun kit? Do you have to go out and buy like $1,700 flashlights and a headlight and I don't know, those little raver glow sticks and everything?
No, I mean so you can kind of go crazy with like the gear that you need to shoot this stuff, or you can go pretty tame. So like I said, I set everything up so that if you've got a 65 lumen flashlight, which that's like 20-year-old tech, that you can get through the stage. You don't have to have a laser, you don't have to have the high-end flashlight. The first year we did this, Jerry Mitchellak and his family showed up, and all of their light mounts were duct tape. And he did pretty well.
Yeah. The guy kind of knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry shot the match every year. I mean, he shot all 3 years of Crimson Trace. He shot Starlight last year, and he's already signed up for Starlight this year. He, if he can do it with duct tape, it's kind of hard to say that, you can't.
Yeah, no kidding.
For me, you've got a rifle. As long as you've got some kind of illuminated reticle, whether it's a red dot optic or a scope, you're fine. The furthest shots I put at this match is 200 yards, and that's usually going to be on a pretty big target. I mean, I'm not trying to make this into a, let's shoot an MOA target at 300 yards, offhand or something. I want it to be quick. I want it to be doable. And I want people to have fun watching the guys shoot it, not watching some guy bang away for, 20 rounds and going, what is he doing? I mean, shouldn't he move? So all the targets are going to be, you're going to be able to hit them. It's just going to come down to if you can hit them faster than the other guy. The rifle, for my setup, I usually use, I've shot with a red dot, I've shot with a scope, 6 in one, half dozen the other. Doesn't really matter either way for me. I definitely put a laser on mine. The first year that I shot it, it's like, hey, you're the match director for the Crimson Trace match. What lasers do you have on your guns? None.
Whoops.
You didn't put any lasers on your guns? At the time, I didn't have any practice with them. I didn't have any experience. I didn't have any real world, running around in the dark with a laser on my gun. My agency didn't allow them at the time. They still don't. Although I think I have lasers on 4 of my duty guns now. So, oops. But I mean, it's, it was something that I was like, well, I got a red dot on my rifle. I got a red dot on my shotgun. I'm used to shooting iron sights on the pistol. So, how hard can this be? And I shot the first match, and I got my butt kicked on a bunch of stages by a bunch of people that I know I should be shooting better than, that were running lasers. It's kind of like, maybe there is something to this laser stuff. And I picked up a couple of lasers that year, and I got a chance to play around with them. And I came back the next year, and I would say for 2 out of 3 guns, for the rifle and the pistol, there is no doubt in my mind that if you're shooting at night and you're not running a laser, you're handicapping yourself.
Oh man, so that means that you're in for like a new holster then too with with your pistol.
Not necessarily.
No?
No, that's one of the other things that I did was, just a lot of guys they didn't have the ability to, go out and buy a new holster or something, or they're wearing holsters made for whatever their gun and light combo was. So we set up all the stages so that you can ground your gun. There will be a location where you can set your pistol in the stage and recover it, and it's not going to cost you a whole lot of time.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, you might burn like an extra second or two, but, it won't be too bad. Like we might use the MGM dump boxes, and, your pistol will be waiting there where you ground your rifle or something. Or, it might be, at the start position, there'll be a table, next to the start position where you can have your pistol sitting instead of in a holster.
Okay. So that makes it a little more accessible then.
Yeah, we tried to make it as easy as we could. All the rule set that we have is like really, really short on equipment rules. It's like super open, I call it. I mean, it's pretty much as long as you have a .223 caliber rifle, so not a pistol caliber carbine, but an actual rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol, you can pretty much do whatever you want to them. I don't care if you run an open shotgun. I don't care if you run an open rifle. I don't care if you have a 50-round drum hanging out your Glock 18, whatever you want to play with. Doesn't matter to me. Okay.
And then everyone just goes in one division?
Everybody goes in one division.
Okay.
And the concern that I had was running around at night. It's hard enough in the day to keep track of what each guy is using, but I figured at night it's going to be impossible, and I just don't want to argue with people about, hey, is that the same setup you used on the last stage? So we told people, if you want to come shoot the match, cool. Set your gun up however you want. If you shoot the first stage and realize, whoa, this sucks, change your setup. You can throw a different upper on. You can swap rifles completely. If you want to run a scope on one stage and a red dot on another stage, I don't care. Do whatever you want, man. I figured this is a learning experience for folks because most people don't have the opportunity to practice a lot at home for this. And there were things that I figured out really quick that I thought, hey, this is the perfect way to do this, that don't work well at all. I figured out real quick that when I ran a headlamp with a mini red dot sight that I had, the light from the headlamp would trick the sensor into thinking it was lighter than it was, and it would wash out the dot.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, this isn't working right. So, middle of the stage, you're like killing your headlamp so you can see your light or a red dot sight again. And it was, there's a learning curve that goes into it. The first night match you go to, definitely for the first couple of stages, you're probably going to be a little lost. But there's enough people that have experience doing it now that there's always going to be somebody that can get you through it. I've can't tell you how many guys I've seen loan equipment at 3-gun matches. Hey, something's not working. Here, use this. Here, use my light. Here, use my gun. Whatever. Doesn't matter. And we've never had an issue with, people loaning equipment out. In fact, Jim Shepard, the last year we shot the Crimson Trace match, he was nice enough to loan his Wilson Combat AR to the range. He shot the media match, and the morning of the main match, somebody went out and found it sitting in a dump box.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he left it there.
Nice.
He forgot about it. Wandered away. So we held on to that. And there may have been some blackmail involved. That may be why I have a job now doing Starlight.
Hey, sweet.
Yeah, probably not. But,
So I have a question about like your laser setup. When you're, I'm going to ask about the rifle too, but when we set it like a laser up specifically for a pistol, and considering this context of competition and not like self-defense, how do you sight in that laser for your like point of impact for your rounds?
So I sight my laser in the same way for defense that I do for competition, and basically as far out as I can sight it in. So for me, it's usually at 50 yards I'll sight them in, and that's not the way they come from Crimson Trace. Crimson Trace, they sight them in at like 15 yards. The way I look at it is it's kind of like with a rifle optic. Your bullet is going to cross that path at some point.
Right.
And if you make it like super close, it's going to cross and then go really, really high and then really, really low. The further out you can get that initial 0 point, the flatter that arc is going to be. And it's not like the bullet's actually going up, but the sight's in relation to where the bore is
right.
going to do that. And it's even worse with lasers depending on where that laser is on the gun. Like for me, I use the laser grip on a Glock, so it's not in line with the bore, it's offset to the right. So if I sight that thing at, say, 10 yards, at 20 yards, it's going to be an inch to the left. At 40 yards, it's going to be like 3 inches to the left. So, I mean, that laser is just going to keep pointing further and further to the left as it goes further out. So for me, if I can sight it in at 50 yards, then I know anywhere between like 0 and 100 yards, that dot is going to be on the target within an inch.
Got it. Okay, well that makes sense. And then with pistol shots, you generally don't shoot out to 50 yards, except for maybe a couple of rounds anyway.
Well, except at Crimson Trace and Starlight.
Oh yeah, you have long pistol shots.
I want to say we had a 100-yard pistol shot at Starlight last year.
Oh, no kidding.
And it was an optional target. You could take it with a pistol or the rifle. And I want to say if you took it with a pistol, it was like a 5-second bonus. And it was huge. It was like an 18 by 24. It was a big steel challenge plate.
Oh, sweet.
And I didn't figure anybody would have trouble with it. And that target caused us more issues than anything else in that whole match. Because right running in back of that target, the guys had run the power cord to the lights for the stage next door.
Oh, no.
So, apparently people couldn't hit, almost a 2-foot square target. No, it's even more than 2 foot. Anyway, couldn't hit this massive steel target at 100 yards, but they could somehow manage to find a 3/8 inch thick electrical cord. 3 times.
It just knocked all the lighting out on the next stage?
Oh, it killed everything. It was like, and then you'd have to go out in the dark and try to find where this bullet, okay, why aren't the lights working? And the last time we finally get out there and I was like pulling on the cord and you could see it arcing in the middle. It's like, okay, there it is.
Found it.
But man, yeah, we trashed, I think 3 of their really expensive power cords. We're hard on equipment at this match.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oops.
Geez, you're going to have trouble finding a lighting company a couple years here.
Oh, he's got, so we're using the same guy that we used last year, and he's been home working on ways to armor plate his cables.
Oh, smart.
But the other thing is he realized, he's like, you're not drawing enough power that we can't just use cheap extension cords here. There's no reason for me to use a $100 cord here when a $20 won't work.
Yeah, and then they can just become a consumable.
Yeah. And with Copperhead Creek, we've got a lot better control over where we're going to put our generators and cords this year, too. So I'm a lot happier with that setup. So I think we're good there.
Good.
Hopefully.
So,
getting back to equipment.
Yeah.
So we're talking rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely laser on the rifle.
And you zero 50 yards.
I zero at 50 on the rifle as well.
Okay.
And usually what I found was the laser at like 100 and 200 yards, it's harder for me to use than the optic. Inside of 50, it works great for me. And, different people may have different results with that. If you do, more power to you. But I mean, for me, once I got past about 50 yards, just like if I was offhand, my wobble zone was kind of squirrely, and it shows more movement with the laser than it does with a regular optic. And it didn't feel as good, didn't feel as fast. But inside of 50, oh, it's so quick. And same thing with the pistol. And the pistol was interesting because the further out I went, the quicker I got with the laser. So, like for me at 10 yards, if I'm shooting a target, whether it's a laser or iron sights, I'm pretty much as quick either way. I mean, there's no real appreciable difference between them. But like the 50-yard target, throw the laser on it, bang. And it was just immediate, quick, and it worked great. Which may be why I put 50-yard targets in the match.
Right.
Just to kind of highlight how well that laser works.
Perfect.
But I mean, for the pistol, for me, I'm a Glock guy through and through. I've played around with 2011s. I've got 1911s. I've got all that stuff. But for 3-gun, I can't beat a Glock. So, I'm running a, Glock 34 with the Crimson Trace laser grip on it. And then usually like a Surefire X300 Ultra on the front end. I've run the Crimson Trace Railmaster. The light on that is not real bright. But it's kind of nice because it's a little easier to holster and the grip is the same as, when I don't run the laser. But as long as you've got something that's reasonably reliable, you're fine. Travis Gibson, I think, the last year Crimson Trace, he showed up with a Surefire flashlight zip tied to the scope mount of his Open 2011, and it worked.
Sweet. So it doesn't need to be, super complicated or super expensive. Duct tape it to your gun, zip tie it to your gun.
Yeah. Huh. I mean, it's more problem solving than just buying equipment. I mean, you don't need like the fancy integrated Benelli forend for your M1. Man, duct tape works.
Yeah, for sure.
Ideally, you want the flashlight pointed in the same direction as the shotgun. So, like if you look at a lot of flashlights, the head on them is bigger diameter than the body.
Right.
So, put the head of the flashlight up against it and then put something underneath the bottom, like cardboard or something, and then duct tape it. And it'll point the right direction. So I said, 2 out of 3 guns, the laser works really well on. I am not a fan of laser on the shotgun.
Really? Why is that?
Well, at least for what we do. I don't mind it for defensive purpose. I think it's fine. But for like 3-gun, what do we shoot most with the shotgun? Clay targets and little plates.
Yep.
So with the laser, you have to get the laser on that target before you can see that it's ready to shoot.
Gotcha.
And with a shotgun, you don't need to do that. I mean, you may have a 10, 12-inch, 15-inch pattern depending on how far out you are. And if you're trying to aim precisely enough to get that laser on a 4-inch clay, you're probably wasting time that you don't need.
Yeah, you're definitely aiming too hard at that point, right?
Yeah. Now, I know other guys that are like, no, dude, laser on the shotgun's the way to go. I think Tiskauser runs a laser on his shotgun, and he's like adamant. Well, if it's him, I know somebody does. Somebody's adamant about running a laser on their shotgun, and I don't get it personally. But if you think it's going to help, give it a try. If you run one stage and it's like, wow, that was really slow, take it off.
Yeah.
Or switch shotguns. It doesn't matter to me. It's one of the other things that we do at the match is every year I've set the stages up because, when we do open, everybody thinks, oh, well, great, now I need an open shotgun. I never set it up with more than 9 shotgun rounds that are required. Just because I don't want to totally screw over the TAC Ops guys.
Right.
So, I mean, you can come and shoot your tac op shotgun and burn all the targets down you want, ground the thing, and go to your pistol and do whatever else you need to do. There are some stages when it's going to be better off to have more shotgun capacity than that, but it's not going to be that big of a game changer. And I've figured out over the last couple of years that a lot of the stages that I was like, this is definitely going to rock for a shotgun stage. I mean, whoever has the biggest open capacity shotgun is going to smoke this. I'm usually wrong. Yeah, it's usually some guy with a pistol that comes in and just burns everything down, and it's like, sorry, should have shot pistol.
Yeah, that's okay. So that makes sense. Then the shotgun. Then I've got like a 12-round tube on mine, so I usually run tac ops. So then I can just go ahead and stack 13 rounds in that thing. But you generally only going to have like 9 required shotgun targets, right?
Yep, load it up. You'll have extras. A lot of times there's going to be something else that you can shoot with the shotgun. Like I can think of one stage we're going to have 8 shotgun clays in the center. And then there's going to be like 3 or 4 clays on the right, or 3 or 4 plates on the right, 3 or 4 plates on the left, and then you run down to the end. It's going to be kind of set up like a diamond.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you've got those extra couple of rounds in there, burn the shotgun clays, burn the plates on the right, dump the shotgun, go left with pistol. For a guy that's got all the capacity in the shotgun, he's going to maybe do the clays, the plates on one side, take the shotgun with him up front. It's not going to be a huge difference. But I try to set the stages up with as many options as I can come up with. Just about every stage has an option where you can shoot pistol or rifle on targets or pistol or shotgun on targets. Just something, if you've got something you want to play to your strengths, go for it. I mean, it may be the best way to shoot the stage. It may not be the best way to shoot the stage. But if that's what's fun for you, then I want you to have fun.
Yeah, and that's what we're here for, is to have fun.
That's mine.
I think a lot of people try to forget that sometimes, but it is a fun sport.
I forgot that when I was shooting the 25-yard auto poppers at the Northwest Multi-Gun this weekend.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be fun, not aggravating.
Yeah, exactly. I've had a couple matches like that too. It's where you yep, having a great time. This is fun.
Really, I swear, I'm enjoying myself.
Well, Chuck. So we covered the Starlight match, what to expect, and kind of how you ran it in the early days, the advancements that you've made, and how to set up your gear. So I don't think anyone has an excuse not to run a night match not to shoot the night match if they want to. If they're interested in coming out to Copperhead Creek and shooting Starlight, where do they sign up?
So registration's live on Practice Score right now.
Okay.
Just go to Practice Score, plug in Starlight 3-gun, or even just Starlight, hit a search. It's going to come up. So the registration link is there. You can go to starlight3gun.com. The registration link will hopefully be live by the time this airs, although I'm not going to guarantee that. I think there were some threats of bodily harm to the webmaster this weekend.
Oh, nice.
There's a Starlight 3-gun Facebook page as well that we've got. There's lots of different ways. There's a thread on Brian Enos for Starlight if you've got any questions on that. And then there's a 3-gun match announcements Facebook page as well that JT set up. There's a Starlight thread on there. Pretty easy to find. If you got any questions, just give me a holler and I will do my best to get them answered as soon as I know, which isn't always immediately. But no, it's a lot of fun. I can tell you there's a lot of people that I've talked to over the years that really, really wish they had either gone to Crimson Trace or gone to more Crimson Trace matches or gone to Starlight last year. That they're like, man, that's a match I always wanted to go to, but I didn't get a chance to. I have no idea how long we're going to be able to do this. I mean, the one thing about these night matches is they suck up a ton of resources. We hit the sponsors really, really hard for these matches. Like, I remember when I was working with Crimson Trace and they showed me the sponsor packet. I'm like, are you nuts? There's no way you're going to get a sponsor to give you this much in cash. And they got 3 of them that year. And I still couldn't believe it. And I can't believe how... So Timney Triggers, it was our title sponsor last year. They're our title sponsor this year. And, man, Timney is just incredible. I mean, I can't believe how much they're kicking in to make this match work. And it's going to be big. You know, last year we gave away the top man and the top woman both walked away with $15,000 each.
Whoa!
Plus the winner of the shoot-off got an extra $5,000 check. So Nick Atkinson managed to win both. So he walked away with $20,000. Lena Michalek walked away with $15,000. We did cash prizes down to 5th place in both men and women. So all of our top 5 in both divisions are coming back this year to kind of defend their placement. It's going to be a little tricky to do that because I know we've got some new blood coming in that they also want their chance at the top. And from what Jim says, the cash prizes are going to be even bigger this year. Prize table should be pretty awesome. It's big. I mean, Jim wants to make Starlight 3-gun mainstream, you know, to where people consider it a viable, legitimate, real sport. And he's got some contacts and connections with actual, you know, as much as I love the gun industry, we hit them really hard for sponsorships. I mean, we're bleeding them dry.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we ask so much from realistically so few companies that, you know, sooner or later it's going to dry up. And, you know, Jim's got some contacts and he's doing what he can to see if we can get some, you know, big corporate sponsorships. And if that's the case, then, you know, you may see Starlight go a little bit bigger. We may have some events, plural, around the country next year. It just kind of depends on what kind of reception we get this year and how many people show up and how much fun it is and if we can get the word out.
Well, that's great. So if folks are interested in shooting the match, I will have links to everything that Chuck talked about there in the show notes as usual. I'll look them up so you don't have to, and you can just find those at 3gunshow.com. Chuck, this has been really cool. I'm totally behind the message of getting the match out to like a broader audience, having people come and watch and stuff like that. I think that's a cool concept, and I would love to see you guys succeed. So thanks for coming on the show and for telling us about Starlight 3-Gun and making it accessible with gear and duct tape and all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's people have a lot of fun. I mean, once they get going, once they actually get there, they're going to have a good time.
Yeah, and it sounds like I'm going to have to look at my schedule and see what I'm doing in November. So
nothing. There are no other matches in November. There's no excuse not to come.
Dude, I'm coming then. I'll be there.
There you go.
Right on. Well, thanks, Chuck. I really appreciate your time and taking the time to, educate all of us on night matches. And thanks for coming on the 3-Gun Show.
Man, thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Chuck Anderson. Man, it sounds like the Crimson Trace matches were some great ones, and surely you won't want to miss the Starlight 3-Gun. If you're interested in that, I'll have links to everything that we talked about, including all the Starlight links, at 3gunshow.com/episode 83. And don't forget to sign up for the July giveaway of the MGM Target Switch View lever. Check it out at 3gunshow.com/MGM. And when you make a purchase at MGM Targets, you can save 10% using the code DHMGM10. You can also support the 3-Gun Show podcast by using our affiliate link when you shop at Brownells. Just go to 3gunshow.com/Brownells and shop like normal. If you like the show, please tell a friend. Subscribe in iTunes and leave a review by going to 3gunshow.com/iTunes. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll catch you in the next episode.
finished. Unload, show clear.